Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-0 Take, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Welcome back to the 3-0 Take, presented by SeatGeek. This is episode 416. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin, and I'm here with my co-host, Nate Reyes. Nate.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are live, and we are here to talk NFL free agency. Oh, wait.
How much better it is than baseball's free agency?
Dude.
Is that what we're talking about? Because it is.
Just 24 hours of chaos. I'm so jealous.
I saw a lot of feedback today from baseball fans saying, the NFL free agency window is great and all that, but I like having a taste here and there, a little hint throughout the offseason. I don't care about that. I need
something in between. 24 hours of chaos isn't bad. I would like a week of chaos.
Nope. I'm going, just give me all the chaos in a day. Just give me something. I mean, make it a little later in the winter so it's not just right off the top. But
okay,
just give me a day to look forward to.
Maybe like 3 days before Christmas.
There you go. Early Christmas.
Just roll right into Christmas.
Early Christmas. And then that way everybody's set. You know where everybody's going to be. Sure, you don't have as much to talk about in the offseason, but this is ridiculous, man. Like initially it was a joke when we're talking about Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, so on and so forth. It is Monday, March 11th, and the Korea series starts in 10 days.
Sure. 9
days, 10 days.
Somewhere in there.
What are we doing?
Dude, I don't know. All we get is cryptic Instagram story messages. That's it. It's all we can work off of.
And look, I hate to admit it, this is exactly what Scott Boras wanted. What we're seeing. I know we're sitting here bashing the free agency or lack thereof in terms of moves. But we're seeing what happened with Gerrit Cole today, a little bit of a scare there. There's been some other injuries that have taken place across baseball. We were calling him an idiot. We said, what are you doing, Scott? You're washed. You're at the end of the road, buddy. Not to say he knew this was going to happen, but part of me thinks that he knew this was going to happen.
It always happens. There's always stuff that happens. There's always something. That's what spring training is. It's overhype, and it's figuring out who got in their off-season workout and who didn't.
Sad day.
Yeah.
We just need somebody to, like,
something.
Blake, at this point, go to the Angels. I don't care. Doesn't seem like many people want you to go to the Angels. But on that note, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. We still got to take care of a couple housekeeping items. But real quick on Blake Snell to the Angels, there's a lot of people saying, well, who would want to go play for the Angels? Do we want to see Mike Trout in the postseason or not?
I've given up on those streams.
Do we want to see Mike Trout in the postseason or not?
I've shipped those out. I've long buried that in the backyard.
I'm going to pretend that you just said yes. We want to see Mike Trout in the postseason. So how are we going to get on the Angels for trying to surround him with decent players? Like,
I don't know.
I get it. They're
been more than a Blake
cycle
Snell
for
away.
Years. No, I know. But you have to start somewhere. And I know we just rag on the Angels left and right, and deservedly so. They get in their own way more times than not. But at some point, you got to start somewhere. And for us to be ragging on a Blake Snell to the Angels, that to me, that's more on Blake Snell than it is the Angels. If you're the Angels and you're trying to go after somebody, okay, that's fine, whatever. But Blake Snell, maybe have a little bit more awareness. It sounds like you don't want to play in the Bronx, but I mean, do you want to compete right away? If so, maybe the Bronx is a better option than LA, as much as I would imagine he'd like to be out west. That's just my take on it. But before we get any deeper into personnel, news, updates, yada, 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 the Fantasy League is now official. Just want to shout out the official 2024 league. We are underway. The group chat has been started. So thank you to everyone who applied this year. If you didn't make it, try again next year. We'll be, as I said,
it's year 4, isn't it?
No, we're like, it's got to be 5 or 6. Honestly, can I be honest here? I don't know if I even remember like the first or second year.
I don't know if I do either. I thought it was after 2020, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think 5. I want to say maybe 5. I think it's more than 4, but probably not by much. But anyway, it's underway. We got the draft coming up this weekend, so looking forward to that. But again, thank you to everyone who applied. Appreciate your all's interest, and of course, always appreciate your support.
Circle back next year.
Circle back next year, but don't go anywhere. Stick around with us this year. Stay up to date with the pod, the YouTube, all that stuff. Speaking of which, subscribe to the YouTube. Little plug there, a little reminder. Trying to get to 2K by the end of the year, so help us out on that front. We got the hot takes and predictions episode coming up soon. Next episode, I think, unless there's some like weird emergency breaking news episode. I think it's slated for next week.
Yep.
Because as I mentioned, the Korea series gets this baseball season underway officially next, as I said, Wednesday, Thursday. So we're gonna get the hot takes and predictions episode out a little early. Let it breathe. Let you all check that out on the pod and or YouTube. So if you've ever
we're going deep on that one for sure.
Oh yeah,
so
real
just
deep.
Be prepared.
So if you've ever wondered if there's a time that you should check out the YouTube, that would be the time. With that said, let us continue our conversation here with Gerrit Cole. A little bit of a scare. Today, it was announced by Aaron Boone that he was scheduled for an MRI, and all of Yankees Twitter just proceeded to melt.
We're a very volatile fan base, if you couldn't tell.
I mean, I'll let you run with this because this is your guy. But the only thing I'll say here right off the top is talk about a fan base that was at the top of the mountain yesterday. And then today, I kid you not, volatile. I saw tweets from people saying, does anybody want to meet at the top of the Brooklyn Bridge?
Yeah.
Within 24 hours, if that.
That's how we do it. Yeah.
That's what we're dealing with here. So we're going from I've seen Yankee fans talking about world beaters going to run away with the World Series.
There are always those. Yeah.
Sharpie. And then today you get the news that Gerrit Cole possibly could maybe miss the year and then some. And now it's, well, the season's over. I don't know how you get from there to there with one guy. I understand he's your Cy Young winner, but he wasn't going to win you the World Series single-handedly. I'll just say that. Your thoughts?
Here's the problem. There's a lot of problems, actually, but here's one of the problems is that we're just so used to being lied to as a fan base. The Yankees organization just lies. They just flat out lie. So we're having to pick up the pieces and, create our own scenario in our head. Aaron Boone saying, he's saying stuff he said for years, that it's just precautionary, that it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we said that about Aaron Judge last year, and then he's out for 2 months. Said that about Rizzo being fine. Obviously, issues there. It's always been there. We're always being lied to. Constantly. So we're having to pick up the pieces. You want the hopeful side first? You want like the hopeful, somewhat positive Nate?
I want him first? Passionate Yankee fan Nate. Give it whatever comes to you first.
I'm going to be positive first. I'm going to get this out of the way so I can get in deep to all the other stuff. My irrational, fears, basically. Positive. Love him or hate him, Gerrit Cole is a perfectionist. And he's very focused on how he feels and how he recovers, and to the point of like nausea almost, because it's like he's so precise on everything all the time. Every part of his pitching game has to be focused. So this is apparently based on slow recovery. There's no lack of velocity. There's no lack of control. There's no pain. But there is this, I'm not recovering as quickly as I should. So that's where we're getting this precautionary stuff. So I'm hoping this is just gotten blown out of proportion and it's him wanting to figure it out. Irrational Nate engaged. This doesn't change how I feel. This rotation still needed help. Carlos Rodon is, I don't know what that is. I don't know if someone like copied and pasted and brought this new mustacheless Carlos Rodon out, who throws like 7 miles an hour lower than what he normally throws. I don't know what that is. Nestor Cortez, I'm getting a lot of like Jeremy Lin vibes. You were a very nice flash in the pan success, a fun, creative, fan favorite type pitcher, but I'm starting to get a little, I don't know what you are because you're not overly healthy. And now that you are healthy, I'm going to read into your numbers kind of getting beat up in spring training. And there's certain things you can take away from spring training. I'm not going to sit here and say that all spring training things are a wash and just put it under the umbrella of it's exhibition, it doesn't matter. There are certain names for every team. Every fan base has names that they're going to watch closely to see, are you looking better than the last time I saw you? With the idea that, okay, it's spring training, it's a little bit of a slow ramp up period, but I'm worried. This rotation has me worried. The lack of depth was already there without Cole. They already needed to add to this rotation before Cole. So this news does not help. So for any Yankees fans that felt like we were on the top of the mountain, we were riding into the sunset with Cole, I strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. This rotation has holes and a lot of question marks. So yeah, I'm nervous. Obviously, former, Cy Young winner. It's like, I think I saw something since 2017. He's made 30 plus starts every year. The guy is literally a horse.
Last six full seasons, 30 plus.
That's a horse. That's what you want. That's why he got paid what he did. So missing that absolutely hurts. But I'm not going to sit here and say that this team was already primed to be in the best possible position. No way. Now, on to the Snell Monty stuff. They're at the luxury tax. They're at the limit. So basically, whatever they sign from here, free agency wise, they're going to be paying 110% of their contract in taxes. So you're having to pay double. And then some. It's not going to happen.
I don't know if limit is the best word there. I think recommendation is probably a better word, especially if you're the Yankees, setting yourself up. I mean, pre-Cole news. And again, we don't know that this is anything earth-shattering for
still don't know
or his future. It's not official,
still don't
but
know.
It's never necessarily a good sign that a guy's getting an MRI. But with that said, pretend like that news didn't happen. And you're heading into the season as is. Maybe you add a Blake Snell or even a Jordan Montgomery, even though that's not likely. Let's just say hypothetically you add Blake Snell. You have to go for it. You
Yeah.
have to go for it this year.
Yeah.
And if that requires you shooting past the tax threshold, you got to do it. You have to do it. You are becoming the punchline of a joke that has lasted since 2009. It's
15 years.
That's what we're talking about here. And I know I'm one to talk. I get it. The Red Sox guy making comment about how long it's been since World Series. I get that. But as a Yankees, you have to want more. You have to expect more. And if this has to be, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Again, pre-Gerrit Cole news today. This has to have been one of the best positions they've been in a long time.
Yeah.
Even with the question marks surrounding the rotation. If those question marks don't pan out the way that you would hope they wouldn't, you might actually have a half decent rotation by the All-Star break. And then you plug in the holes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if worrying about the luxury tax at this point in time is or should be of great concern for them.
It's
you
understandable.
Need to go out and get Blake Snell.
What I put in my notes, I feel like Dylan Cease might be back on the table if this is long term. And when I say long term, I'm saying months. If months of Gerrit Cole are missed. Because let's be honest, if you're getting an MRI right now, I'm going to go ahead and say best case scenario, you're going to be shut down for 2 weeks. And then there's another ramp up period and possibly a rehab start or two. I think best case scenario, we're not seeing Gerrit Cole again until May. Early May. And that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, like you were saying, maybe months, maybe the year, maybe into next year. I don't know. Dylan Cease, I feel like the price tag was high. Obviously, that's why a lot of teams backed out. I'm trying to see a world where maybe some of these names in Yankee prospect land have impressed. Spencer Jones looks pretty ready, pretty legit. Outside of that, I don't know. Like Jason Dominguez isn't going anywhere. I think the fact that he's cracked in and had immediate success and kind of already had the fan base behind him a little bit, and we've waited years for him. I don't think that's going anywhere. But the only world I see is I think Monty wants 7 years. I think that's the report we keep seeing. I think I could see like a Matt Chapman-esque contract for Blake Snell with opt-outs and things like that. But either way, you're going over the tax threshold. So the only thing I see is maybe trading for somebody who is a front of the rotation guy, and you're giving up a ton of names, and you're getting that guy and cash back to free you up a little bit. So that's why, to me, Dylan Cease seems like a better option than Snell or Monty. But I don't know. I really don't know, because what does that entail? Like, is Gleyber Torres back on the block? Because he's set to be a free agent after this year. Like you got to have big league names pretty much ready to go in that deal. So I don't know. It changes a lot for me. It changes a lot. George Lombard Jr., young shortstop, probably not this year. I would say he's more like a 2025, 2026 ready guy. And then Chase Hampton is another arm who's pretty close. I don't know, man. But the Soto deal was amazing. And I think you got to do it, even though it just absolutely wiped out the depth. But to sit here and say, we're just going to somewhat punt for a year and hope that Soto just falls in love with New York and is willing to sign an extension here without a deep run into the postseason, that's not enough. That's not going to be enough. He needs more. He deserves more. So, and Judge ain't getting younger. Rizzo ain't getting younger. You know what I mean? Like, they got to go.
Yeah, it's a good point about the postseason. That taste of the postseason is vital for keeping him long term,
especially in that environment. You know what I mean? I've been to postseason games in Yankee Stadium. It's different. He's got to feel that. He's got to fall in love with that, not just the city, not just regular season, not just that, because there is going to be frustration, there is going to be failure, and this fan base holds back on no one when there's failure. So if he trips at any point during the season and it's a bad year, I don't see him coming back. I don't see him wanting to sign here in free agency.
We mentioned you mentioned a name I want to touch on real quick because this was also a concern for Yankee land on Twitter today. Aaron Judge.
Another lie.
What are we doing, dude?
She getting lied to again.
Are we though?
Yes.
Are we sure Aaron Judge just isn't as soft as Sharman? Because this was the same guy that had to miss time due to travel-related soreness, whatever that means. The team flies. I took some time today to dig around into the Yankees' flight accommodations. They fly on a Delta Boeing 757, and granted, I did find out today that they apparently have to pay for their own Wi-Fi, which is kind of wild. Didn't know they were Delta. The Oakland A's of the Moneyball days.
We had to pay for our own soda,
but they fly on a 757. How are you going to tell me? And that, if I recall, the flight that he took that warranted the travel related soreness comments and missing time, it was a rather short flight. So, are we sure Aaron Judge's
I'm
beat
not
up spring training?
We can't just wrap this around Aaron Judge. Every team we know this. Billy Epler just got suspended for manipulating the IL. Every team does this, and when you have eyes on a superstar, you have to build some type of evidence, if you will, manufacture evidence for a possible IL stint. That's what it feels like every time one of these guys does something. Because if it is like play induced, we're going to sit there and watch replays of how he ran the bases, how he crashed in the wall, how he swung. Like, where did that injury happen? How did it happen? Why didn't he let up if it was right there? So we just chalk it up under random stuff, random made up things that I've never heard of. What is mid-spring beat up? What is that?
I did see a video circulating that didn't look great. It looked like he maybe had tweaked something, didn't like the follow through or something. So that may be it.
Yeah,
I don't know. But to say that the guy is beat up, you're in Florida where it's like 70 degrees every day this time of year.
Yeah.
And you get maybe 2 at-bats, and then you hit the showers. What are we talking about?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. That's what I'm saying. And in the toe thing, we were told wasn't an issue last year. And then all of a sudden it required surgery and he's out a few months. We get lied to. And I think every organization does this, but like the Yankees are just, it's miserable at this point. We're miserable. This is all you do. Smoke and mirrors. So I don't know. But to those Yankee fans that were saying we were going to walk away with the trophy, I mean, it could happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm optimistic about this team. I feel good about where they're at when healthy. But I've said that for I don't know how many consecutive years with the when healthy tagline attached to everything. Just doesn't happen. So, is what it is, dude. But add to this rotation. I will say my last thoughts. Clayton Beater and Luis Heel both look excellent. Luis Heel coming off of TJ pumping Ched today. So that does make me feel better about young depth. But again, like, so many question marks on the pitching staff right now that I don't feel confident at all.
Yeah, that rotation is some cheeks.
Yeah.
Brayan Bello signs a
Speaking
6-year
of rotations that are cheeks, come on. That was a layup.
Boston Red Sox.
It's a layup, and you
Brayan
overlooked it.
Bello signs a 6-year, $55 million contract extension.
How much? 6 years, 65?
55. Yeah,
55.
they're
Okay.
so cheeks, man. This rotation is some garbage. We got, before this extension, I'd put out a post that said, it was something along the lines of like, we've got 3 mid to late rotation arms, or mid to back end rotation arms, and 2 relievers in Gerrit Whitlock and Tanner Houck.
Yeah.
But even with my negativity surrounding this rotation, I have to say this was a bright spot for me. I was excited, and I know I haven't been the biggest Brian. I've been pretty far from being the biggest Brayan Bello guy. Like I haven't quite seen what the hype is about. I think a lot of the hype is rooted in projections, but with that said, the one thing that I'm still holding out for is having faith in what Pedro Martinez said about this guy. And he's been quoted multiple times in a variety of different ways, essentially with the same message, saying that when he sees this kid, he sees himself. So I'm going, if Pedro is working with these guys, specifically with Brayan Bello, and he says that, I'm going to withhold judgment for a little while longer to see if this guy really, if this kid can really blossom into something special, because we're not just talking about some off the street pitching coach here. We're talking about Pedro Martinez, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, who again works with these guys. He's not just up in the studio observing from a distance. He's down at spring training with these guys. He's working with these guys off to the side, one-on-ones, type stuff like that. So if he's saying this about him, I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions just yet. But I will say I'm excited to see what this or how this pans out for him and the team, because it's a very team friendly deal. And if he ends up being anything, again, like what Pedro's saying, this is going to be a steal. You're getting him, if I recall, you're getting him through the rest of his ARB years, and you're getting him for you're buying out the first year free agency, and I believe, is there an option? I think there's an option for for 7th year. I'd have to go back and double check. But I don't know. I don't know what this year holds for him. I mean, sure, we can sit and look ahead to the next 5-6 years, but going back to our original point about this rotation just being cheeks, I just saw the update today. Lucas Giolito is officially undergoing surgery. And as I mentioned, you're working with a few relievers in the mix here to be part of your rotation. So that's not a great place to be. Last year, I pulled some numbers. Brayan Bello went 12-11 with a 4.24 and had 132 strikeouts to 45 walks on 157 innings. His FIP was actually worse. He had a 4.54 FIP last year, so it's not exactly like he was unlucky. He had a bumpy year. He had his moments certainly throughout the year. He had a couple runs, a couple glimpses of dominance, but I don't know, man. To put a bow on it, I think I have finally reached a point where I've decided on my outlook for this year. I'm gonna stay positive because I'm tired of just I'm tired of being negative about this team. And it's not
Yeah.
that I all of a sudden think they're going to do something special, but at this point I'm like, okay, let's see if we can pull something out of the hat. And a realization that I came to the other day is like, I don't have to just continually beat down this team as my my I don't know, rebellion against John Henry.
Mm-hmm.
I can still tune in. I can still watch you, and that goes with any
Well,
team who's at a
yeah.
point with ownership where they're just so fed up with their team's owners. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
know it's possible. I just haven't done it up to this point. But I've gotten to a point now where I have to have something to look forward to because it's been
You have
miserable
to.
the last couple of years.
And that's, I mean, you have to there. I think there's a balance between like being realistic of where the team is. You know what I mean? Like where are they at this moment? And also being somewhat critical. Like you can be critical, you can be realistic, but you can also be supportive. So I don't see an issue with what you're doing. I'm the same way. You've seen all of our fan base the last 24 hours, so that's just how we operate. As far as Bayo goes, financially speaking, I mean, look, like upside, he's maybe a 1. Downside, he's a 4 or 5. For that dollar amount, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like that's an absolutely perfect deal. If he blows up, you're getting what I would assume his prime. He's 24 right now. So like you're probably going to get his prime at some point during this contract. And you're going to really see what he's made of. For those unfamiliar with his game, I know you talked on some of his numbers from last year. Big ground ball guy. 92 ground ball percentage. 92%. That's nuts. Crazy. Sinker changeup, fastball slider. I think his sinker is probably his number 1 pitch.
Yeah, well, his changeup, I believe, but
usage wise, sinker is the number 1. Ranked 26 in run value on his sinker last year. Which I don't really like fully understand that stat yet. So please hold on me on that one. I'm going to figure that out, whatever that means. Just to give you an idea, Chris Bassett was at the top of the list with sinker. But either way, I mean, the guy's just crazy with ground balls. So that's what you need in Fenway. You know, you need that kind of guy. So he's probably just not a big strikeout guy. You know what I mean? He's probably not going to be like the typical ace that you look at. If you see upside, see like a Logan Webb. You know what I mean? Like a Logan Webb, borderline ace, really, really decent numbers, huge ground ball guy, and not doing it your typical, you know, Cy Young way. Probably going to have a lot of hits that creep through. Probably going to have some runs scored against them. So to sit here and say he's going to have a dominant ERA, probably not. Sit here and say he's going to be, you know, a top 5 ace in the league, I'm going to probably say no on that too. Unless he develops something else. But to have a 4-pitch guy, to have a guy that is young and seems to be enough to ride in on some innings, I don't hate the deal. I really don't. Like financially, it makes a lot of sense. I'm just trying to figure out like how many guys Pedro's going to endorse, because I feel like we're getting real deep on that list. I feel like any young Dominican pitcher he's going to endorse.
In-house, I think Pedro, I don't, he wouldn't know me from Adam, but I would venture to say that he recognizes that his endorsement in-house carries a little bit more weight. So I think an endorsement of a Brayan Bello is going to like I said, he knows that's going to carry a little bit more weight than him signing off on some guy on a TBS broadcast in the postseason. Like I think we're looking at two different things here. So I'm gonna ride this out. I'm gonna take him at his word, because he's obviously seeing something. And like I said, this hasn't been a one-time thing. He's continually like zeroed in on this guy and said, I see myself in him. And I don't think that's something that he just throws around loosely, again, in-house especially. So
yeah. Also, real quick,
see.
fixing my notes here because I was a little scattered putting my notes. Ranks in the 92nd percentile for ground ball percentage. My apologies there. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's a solid deal. I don't think it's anything. It's not a splash. It's not something, but like you said, you got to have something you can feel excited about. And like, worst case scenario, this guy's going to be solid in your rotation for the next 5-6 years, and maybe upside ceiling. He's number one. I don't hate it.
We shall see. Joey Votto agreed to a minor league deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, going back home. I think if there was one team that he was going to end his or follow up rather his Cincy tenure with, I think this one makes the most sense. I think it's the only one that makes sense, if we're being honest, especially when you consider where he's at in his career, what you're most likely going to get from him. I don't think, I venture to say, probably safe to say, you're not going to get a 40 homer season out of Joey Votto at 40 plus.
No.
So if anything, it's a nice little reunion with old Canada. The fans seem to be on board with it, and even if the honeymoon phase fizzles out, it's still going to lend itself. The acquisition is going to lend itself to some pretty cool moments throughout the year. And if this is it for him, if this is just a 1-year thing, because he did say, he was quoted as saying, I don't want to let go, and I still feel like I have ability. The last couple of years, I was not as healthy as I would have liked to have been. I think we can look at this and say Blue Jays probably getting a year out of Joey Votto, and then he's stepping away. So with that said, I think if we get to the end and it's just been a pretty down year for Joey Votto, at the very least, he'll be able to walk off into the Canadian sunset with a very noteworthy career under his belt.
This was a non-roster signing, yeah? So he's not on the 40-man, correct?
MRI, yeah. But he, based on what he was saying, because he was pretty active on social after the deal, he used the words "working back to major league games" or something of that variation.
So how much of this is a 2-week tryout? That's what I want to know.
I mean, it's. I'm with Joey.
Look, I'm rooting for him just as much. I would like to see some success.
I'm with him. I think you have to look at his health, and I know it got real ugly there at the end in Cincy. I understand, but you have to think that Joey Votto makes the 40, man. No, I mean, what are we talking about?
I haven't looked at their roster. It really just depends on who's got options and where.
I mean, Daniel Vogelbach's in the mix. So
that's kind of where my head went. And he's kind of raking right now in spring training. So it's like, if he's trying to break camp with the team and the DH spot is so interesting. It's so interesting because like Justin Turner, the only time he's playing in the field is going to be at first base. And that means Vladdy's DHing. So like, are you going to carry two lefty, I hate to say it, pretty unathletic DHs that are deep into their career between Vogelbach and Joey Votto? I think it's a competition between those two.
But Vogelbach is a guy, like when he was in New York, Mets fans were trying to run that dude out of town. Like the lineup would drop each night and you'd see, or each afternoon, and you'd see Vogelbach in the lineup, and Mets fans in the replies were, I understand that.
I hear you. They're
not
miserable,
the most rational people. I get
Yeah.
that, but like, let's not pretend. Yeah, he's having a decent start to the spring, but let's not pretend like Daniel Vogelbach is going to maintain any level of consistency in 2024. So at the end of the day,
Sure.
it's really, you could think of it as a coin flip, and it's a matter of, would you rather have a guy like Joey Votto,
Yeah.
who has a veteran presence, who I think I'm with him. I think he's got a little bit left in the tank. So I'm not going to sit. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just chalking this up to some farewell tour for a guy who's been around as long as he has. I genuinely think he can provide a little bit of output for that lineup and for that team over the course of 162. But if we're talking about two sides of the same coin here, I'm going Joey Votto. I'm sorry. Like, the pedigree is there. With Daniel Vogelbach, it's
I
not.
agree.
So
I agree.
If that's
saying,
a decision to be made.
I'm just saying there's a
pretty
lot
easy.
of question marks around the corner infield and DH roles for the Blue Jays. And does this move the needle for you at all for the overall Toronto Blue Jays 2024 performance?
No.
It's a fun story. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
I think we're, yeah, okay. I just wanted to get it down to what it is.
I apologize if I made it sound like this was pushing them over the edge to like the division crown. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying, if this is what you're taking into the season, some decisions are going to have to be made, a la Daniel Vogelbach, Joey Votto. Throw in Justin Turner into the mix because he's not getting any younger either. There's a lot of pieces at play, a lot of guys that are going to need some days off, whether literally on the bench or slide into the DH slot for a little bit. Vladdy's not old by any stretch, but he's going to need his time off too.
What happened to the Blue Jays? What has happened?
I don't know, man.
Where did they go wrong? There's so many. I'm like, is Kevin Biggio starting second base? Is Espinal playing mostly at third? How often is IKF getting into the lineup? Justin Turner is never going to play third again. So are we just going to play first? I've heard reports of because JD Davis just got released and Blue Jays still need a true third baseman. Like, there's so many question marks around this team. I think they're going to hit. Their staff is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm very envious of their staff. I think we can speak for both fan bases here between the Red Sox and Yanks to say I would happily take their pitching staff.
Absolutely.
I'm just not quite sure of what it looks like moving forward. What's the direction? And this is awfully Yankee-like, if you don't mind me saying. This is awfully forced puzzle pieces into the wrong spots, for being honest. But I love Joey Votto. I love the character of Joey Votto. It is absolute perfection that he's going back home north of the border. I think there's going to be Canadian baseball fans, whether you're Blue Jay fans or not, showing up to games to show that guy some love. I sense that this will not have the best ending.
I was just about to say, how quickly, as I mentioned, does the honeymoon phase run out?
Yeah.
And oh, Canada, this is great.
Yeah.
Bring Canada's boy back home. And then June rolls around and we're calling for his head. Wanting to run out of town.
He's hitting because above 20.
He's taking up a roster spot. We've seen this before. It happens to everybody. And if it can happen to anybody, it can happen to Joey Votto.
I'm just saying, I think there was a much better role if he retired and joined the 3-0 Take podcast and Fantasy League. I just thought it was a better fit, personally.
The pathway was there.
It was a little more clear. That's all.
We laid the foundation for him. We tagged him in the post. We sent the message. It was there, but he said, you know what? You know what I'm going to choose to believe? He somehow saw the message, and then he didn't respond back, but mentally he said, I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm going to go out and
I'd like to think that.
And leave everything out on the field.
Knowing I have this. Yeah.
Yeah, in 2025.
That'd be a good get. That would be a good get.
That's what I'm going to choose to believe. I'm also going to choose to believe that Mookie Betts, by the end of the year, will have played every position on the diamond because Dave Roberts clearly doesn't care. Dave Roberts cares more about sliding Gavin Lux over because apparently he's just that bad at short than he does the health, the stability of his MVP in Mookie Betts.
How about the oxymoron of quotes? Permanent for now. What does that mean? What is that? That's not a thing. That's literally not permanent. That's not a thing.
Do we know what permanent means? Apparently not. Because that was a Dave thing, right?
That was a Dave thing. That was a Dave quote.
Come on, Dave.
What is that, dude? Permanent
for now. Okay, so he's gonna be there at short, and then what does jokes aside, I'm genuinely curious what the condition is that that lends itself to the for now. Like what has to happen for this to not be a thing? Because on paper, you look at it, knowing what we know now about Gavin Lux and his little mini tryout here at short, not being able to get. I was looking into it a little bit more. Apparently, he's just not able to he's not able to get the throws across the diamond the same way Mookie can, who again was an infielder coming up in the system in Boston. Played in the infield. He played in the infield a fair amount last year, and is sprinkled in throughout. What has to happen for this to not be a thing? Because as I was saying, on paper, I'm okay with it. I don't like that you slid him into second full time and then immediately shifted gears and bumped him short.
I don't like any of this personally.
I mean, that's what I'm saying though. I'm okay with him at short. Like if this is the decision, that's fine. Second base to short, I'm fully confident that he can handle both. Maybe let's not move him over to third. Maybe let's just keep him.
Yeah, let's just relax. Yeah.
This side here. But I'm curious to know what he meant by that when he said for now. Like what has to happen for him to maybe move back to second or God forbid back to the outfield?
I think first off, I feel bad for Gavin Lux.
Yeah.
And for those who, didn't remember, he tore his ACL last year. And I think that's the issue of what's going on right now. Because I did a little deep dive into Baseball Savant, and going back to 2022, Gavin Lux ranked in the 8th percentile for arm strength. 8th. Arm strength has always been an issue for this kid. So when you mix in a knee injury and what kind of seems to me like slow, still rehabby footwork and probably not a whole lot of drive off the legs. Cause like you and I both played the infield, and anybody that played understands that like your legs and your feet and your momentum for that throw do most of the work. It's less about the arm. You either have arm strength or you don't, especially at this age. You either have it or you don't. You're not 15 and we're not going to go tell you to do more long toss. You know what I mean? Like it just is what it is. But the footwork and the legs have to be there. So post ACL injury, it just doesn't look good. It didn't even look good at second base. Still doesn't look good. It's very choppy. It's very there's no fluid movement going on. And for those curious, Mookie obviously being, a right fielder most of his career is pretty high in the arm strength category. So that's fine. But they're both like opposite. So like Gavin Lux, no arm strength, plenty of range. Mookie, plenty of arm strength, average range, somewhat below average. I looked up last year. You said spent some time. Let's get nerdy for a sec. Spent some time at second base, 98 innings, -2 outs above average at that position. Did have 3 errors, but like overall, like that's not bad. He's only had 116 games in the infield in his career. And I don't think people understand that, like, I get it, it's Mookie, and we've seen him do whatever he wants to do on pretty much all sports platforms. The guy's a freak. But making the transition to short is not easy. Shortstop is not easy on a daily grind basis. I don't know, man. This definitely wasn't plan A, but it's hard for me to think that Gavin Lux coming off of an ACL injury was plan A. You know what I mean? Like, that was really your thought process coming into this year? Was that guy was going to be your shortstop moving forward? With the sprinkle of Miguel Rojas and Chris Taylor?
Well, I mean, the vision for him had been short for a while, and I
Sure.
would imagine it was probably tough for the Dodgers to let go of that vision finally. But it sounds like they all sat down. I read that Mookie, Gavin, Dave Roberts, and maybe even some front office folks sat down. They talked about it, and Mookie gave classic Mookie response. He's like, "It's cool, man." He's like, I'll literally do whatever. Just want to help the team win." And to a degree, I believe that. I know I get on Mookie sometimes about saying things just to say them, but generally speaking, I think he's okay. He's okay with the move. Otherwise, I think we would have heard about a little bit more of a disagreement. But I think to him, second base to short, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more of an adjustment. But like I said, he's not new to the infield. Um, I I think he'll be okay. It may
I
not
get
be
that.
it may not be the prettiest,
Yeah.
but to your point, I venture to say having Mookie at short is going to be a little bit better of a plan A, or just status quo than having Gavin Lux coming off an ACL as your shortstop.
I wonder if this brings in, and I think the permanent, going back to your question, permanent for now, probably takes me the idea of like how it looks for the first half of the season up until the trade deadline. And then you probably bank on the Brewers not being in great shape and go get Willy Adames. And I would go ahead and assume Gavin Lux would be in that deal. Plus some money, plus some prospects. Mookie slides back to second. It's weird for me to say, we're the LA Dodgers. We're going to go make a run at a trophy. And we're going to say, that's pretty good for a right fielder, for our everyday shortstop. I don't feel comfortable saying that.
That's a fair point. We're the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're going to spend over $1 billion this offseason, but we're going to settle with Mookie Betts as our shortstop.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I'm a Mookie fan. I love
Mookie.
I think he'll be great. I think he will be a Hall of Famer. And I think this speaks to just almost like a pioneer of flexibility when it comes to being a defender. But it was enough of a stretch for me to say I'm a little nervous about him playing second base every day. Now playing short every day is just, it's a different beast, dude.
Honestly, it may have been a stretch for you, but I really liked the idea of him being an everyday second baseman.
And to put all this on a bow, this is to make sure that Jason Hayward plays right field every day. Okay. Sure. Look, this team is not, this team's going to bang. This team's going to freaking rake, and they're going to pitch lights out. I think they will be top 3 in pitching across baseball. Defense is going to be one of their Achilles heels, but I think they're going to be able to pitch and hit their way out of that. So this is going to be slightly swept under the rug. I'm just saying, not the great option that you would be hoping for.
I don't know. I just hope that poor defense does not take its toll over the course of the season on a rotation. I won't say a rotation,
That's
but
true.
a mix of starters that are either dealing with something, coming back from something, presumably gonna be dealt something throughout over the course of the year. I just hope that doesn't take its toll on a situation that's already like, yeah, I know they've got their guys, they've got Glass now, Yamamoto, so on and so forth, but
no Buehler, no Kershaw to start the year, so
they're not going to be bulletproof in the rotation. They'll have a better rotation than most, but
the other question mark is Gavin Lux is not good against lefties. Do you platoon him? Who do you platoon him with? Do you platoon him with Chris Taylor playing second? You keep Mookie at short? Do you bring in Miguel Rojas to platoon with Lux and move Mookie back to second base during those days? It's cool that they have options. It's definitely cool they have options. And we've seen Muncy play second base too. So like they can probably mess around and do some things. It's, first world problems, honestly. When you come to think about it, it is pretty much first world problems.
Yeah. Do we want to have Mookie Betts at short? Do we want to have a Gold Glover MVP caliber guy play short, or do we want to stick him out in right where he's been for a while and just let him focus on hitting, putting up 30 plus bombs every year? Yeah, it must be tough if you're the Dodgers. Must be tough if you're Trevor Bauer, trying to make a comeback. We've already touched on this a little bit over the course of the offseason. But the recent development with his situation is that he made an appearance for the Asian Breeze.
Can someone fill me in on what that is?
Yes, I have it right here. It's an independent travel team that helps players get recognized by scouts by having them play against minor league players from Major League Baseball teams.
So it's specific to that.
Correct.
That makes sense. Because he carved, didn't he?
Ironically, against the Dodgers, he went 3 shut, striking out 4. I think he loaded the bases early, but got out of it. So all in all,
upper 90s too.
I think he topped out at 99 is what I read.
Yeah,
but it's against, like I said, it's against minor leaguers. Not to take anything away from him. It was his. In the articles I was reading, they made sure to mention that this was his first game, if you will, on American soil since ultimately getting blackballed from the league a while back. But
dang, my tinfoil hat's gone. I won't reveal names, but we had a group chat going a couple months ago saying that this girl that exploited and did and like went to trial with him and all this stuff was like a Manfred plant because of how he was attacking Rob Manfred and attacking his, commissioning. Is that proper language? Probably not.
Let's go with it.
I don't like him. I'm not a fan of his. He annoys me.
You could apply that to Trevor Bauer and Rob Manfred, but I think we're talking
both of them.
Trevor Bauer.
But You're telling me there isn't a rotation that could use this right now? You're like, come on. There's something, there's this. I think that's why he's so vocal. I think that's why he's like so in your face social media wise, because it's like he's forcing their hand. He's going everywhere and showing everyone that I still got it. And the fact that I'm not getting calls is a bigger issue and has more to do with this dictator sitting in the commissioner's suit. I'll buy that conspiracy.
It's a lot of backlash, man. I'm telling you. Like, say which we've talked about it, and it's been addressed by many outlets, many talking heads. We're not sharing anything you don't already know. We know how it panned out in the judicial system.
Yep.
Like, we understand that. But it's clear that teams don't really care.
Yep.
Because if you think about it, and
I just can't chalk it up to only public relations being the issue.
I think you can.
I don't think it can be the only one. Because winning cures all. Winning will cure all.
Yeah, but you have to get through the noise first to get to a point where you're winning. And I don't know if teams look at this and go, we can weather the storm long enough, because I that's going to be a heck of a storm. And I think, to be fair to these front offices and these owners or whoever's making the final shot, or the final call on whether or not to sign this guy, credit to them. They're probably having discussions behind closed doors going, everyone in this room knows what happened legally in terms of the outcome and the result and all that judicially. But there are a lot of dumb baseball fans out there who maybe lack a lot of awareness, or at least enough awareness to maybe do a little bit of their own research and find out how it actually happened, how it panned out. And instead are just going to fall back on this guy's a rapist and he's gross and he's sick, and I don't want him anywhere near my favorite team's clubhouse. There's a lot. Again, I'm not generalizing. I'm not sweeping all of these baseball fans under the same rug here. But I think we've all had those water cooler conversations at work. We've all been in those group texts where people throw out some asinine takes on stuff like this, where you go, it's very clear that you have no clue as to what actually happened and whether or not this guy is technically guilty of what he's being accused of. They just look at it and go, this guy is gross. He's a rapist. I want nothing to do with him. And that's that. And these owners and front offices have to take that into account and go, again, we know what happened, but these fans are choosing not to believe anything, or they're not even aware of the outcome. So we have to work through that.
But there's so many occurrences of PR issue players getting a second chance. Like Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden having cocaine issues.
Right.
I mean, you have this long list of steroid users that got hounded. And
yeah,
like,
but in those scenarios, drugs were rampant. Like steroids were rampant. Yeah. In this day and age,
we still have domestic violence stuff with history of a lot of players.
Sure, but you have a couple things you got to take into account here. One, the heightened awareness and attention given to that very issue. Like women, like I don't want to get too deep into it, but like the Me Too movement and all that's like a lot has happened in the last decade plus with these types of things. But hold on, I'll just finish my thought. Right. I'll just finish my thought. With those guys that you mentioned, you could, for all intents and purposes, you could round them out with the issue, fill in the blank, whatever it is, drugs, steroids, whatever. You could kind of put a bow around that and say That's how you're being defined. With Trevor Bauer, you have to think he has this. He has his issues with Manfred. He has the drone issue. He has spouting off on YouTube. He has just the arrogance that not a lot of people like. It turns a lot of people off. There's just so much more. He's too multi-dimensional when it comes to negativity, and I don't think that these front offices are going to want to put up with that. And it's clear to this point that nobody has taken that step forward to say we will.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, do you think this stink is stinkier and more lingering than the Astros? Than the scandal, than the cheating,
No, but I mean, as we all know, Manfred even said it himself, didn't handle that the best way, and people still let the guys that were, I mean, who are we kidding? Not only the guys that were involved, but the guys that are on the team now that weren't even in the organization at the time, they get their earful. So I tell you, man, baseball fans don't let you forget. If they don't like you and they're stuck in their ways, they're not changing their mind, they're going to let you know about it. And I think that's what's happening with Trevor Bauer here.
It's hard to imagine you throwing 100 and not getting a shot.
That's where we are, man. That's where we are with society and the fear of blowback on something like this.
Yeah.
And and again, I want to speak for both of us here. We've addressed both sides of this. Like, we understand that there is an inherent risk there, regardless the outcome. Like, there's just to use your word, there's kind of a stink around it. But on the other side, you have to look at the facts of the case and go, is no team going to give this guy a shot?
Yeah.
Is this it for him? Have we gotten to the end of the road for Trevor Bauer in Major League Baseball? I don't know. And if he doesn't get his shot, how does he ride this out? Does he run it back? Does he try to let it air out another year and make another attempt in 2025? I would venture to say probably yes, because it's Trevor Bauer.
It gives me Colin Kaepernick vibes. You know what I mean? Like, Kaepernick is still trying to send messages out. He hasn't played in like 6 years. So I think this is going to be around for a while. Is what it is.
I don't know. Speaking of being around for a while, I think with the renderings that came out recently for the Oakland A's new Vegas ballpark, I think we're getting that much closer to the Oakland A's no longer being around in Oakland. But let me just say, the renderings
looks awfully familiar.
Renderings look awfully familiar.
I don't get that.
A particular opera house in Australia. But we were informed by ownership that the opera house in Sydney did not serve as inspiration for this project, although they look nearly identical.
Yeah.
Given the
What's
design.
up with these white roofs? Why did
it's got to be like a sustainability, like heat what's the word? Like heat, like a heat regulation thing. You're not absorbing all that heat, but
I don't know.
Dude.
Sphere is black. So is Allegiant Stadium.
I don't know.
I think it's Allegiant, right? Where the Raiders play.
I'm not a sun scientist.
Really? Thought they had that on the
Believe
resume.
it or not, yeah. No, I'm not.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not. I'm over it. I don't want to talk about the A's. I don't even want to talk about the A's during the regular season.
Well, Yes, I'm with you on that. But can we just talk real quick about the quote unquote jumbotron in the rendering? Just hideous. This concept will never stick. And I'm not trying to sound like the guy that called the internet a fad back in the day, but like I think video board jumbotrons have been doing just fine. Why do we need to put like this projection screen? Or it appears to be a projection screen. It says, like I read it in the report, it says it's an 18,000 square foot video board, which will be the largest in Major League Baseball. But it looks like a projection screen because of the curvature of the root, or the dome, I guess they're calling it, which it's not even really a dome because it's got an open back, which I don't really consider a dome.
Is it retractable or is it just stay that way?
I don't know, man. That's what I'm saying. And the whole which I'm sure it's not going to be this way in real life, but the whole interior in the rendering is like a green glow. So are you telling me that the people sitting under the jumbotron are going to look like Shrek for 9 innings every night? Because that's going to get kind of old pretty quick. I did see a couple comments about the jumbotron though, and they said of all of them, the comments were along the lines of like, of all the mistakes that they made, like mimicking the Opera House, putting up this hideous jumbotron, they at least got one thing right, and it was leaving Anthony Rendon out of the lineup for the scoreboard mock-up, which I have to agree with. And they also said that
that's incredible.
They said it's unrealistic in the sense that the Oakland A's wouldn't have that many players with that high of batting averages, and I have to agree with that one as well. So
yeah, relax there.
Just not a great step, if you're the Oakland A's.
This does nothing for me. I do like the open backdrop idea of it's like seeing the city. I do think that's kind of cool. But I don't know what that is. Are those windows?
I
think it's enclosed.
I think it is, yeah. So maybe it's not an open back. Yeah.
I dread the idea of being a middle infielder and getting a cutoff throw from left center, if that's like a no wall kind of thing, just clear plexiglass or whatever. I don't know. Obviously, renderings aren't like the final thing, so they're going to make it up to baseball standards. But it, I don't know, dude.
I mean, but we've seen renderings that look a little better than this. I hate it. I think it's.
I'm not going to even address in my mind or acknowledge the fact that they're going to Vegas until they're there.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I won't subject you to Oakland A's talk anymore. That we can call it. We can call it there. Let's
March 11th. We're gonna call it there. No more A's talk.
No more A's talk until they move to Vegas, which I guess is like what, 2029, 2028.
But they're gonna play in where? Sacramento,
probably. The parking lot at the Coliseum. Who knows?
Freaking mess. It's a mess. MLB handles stuff so strangely sometimes. In an embarrassing way sometimes.
Yep. We're all that to say, we're putting a hiatus on A's talk until what, 2029, 2028.
Perfect. That's the way Daddy likes it.
I'm okay with that.
I prefer it. Yeah.
I don't hate that. Anything else you got?
Man. Buckle up for Hot Takes episode.
It's going to be a fun one.
Buckle up and probably set aside. I would go ahead and assume 2 hours of your day. Multiple days, maybe, if you need to do it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's going to be at least 2 hours. We're going in heavy. We're going in deep. All of our preview of divisional rankings and player award ranking. I mean, we're going to get into some stuff. It's the best episode of the year. We're hyped for it. Want you to get hyped for it. May have some surprises for you as well.
Don't want to say what, but
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Or how
hopefully
many?
Or how many?
I love it. Thank
But
you
we'll see.
guys. Appreciate you.
Shout
Don't forget
out-
to subscribe, please.
Yeah, shout out to those of you watching on YouTube, the live stream. We're trying to increase our presence on these live streams. So shout out to those of you watching on YouTube. Shout out to those of you watching on Facebook. And hopefully we'll even have Twitter up and running for the hot takes episode. That's like we're talking about. That's the big one. That's the most looked forward to episode of the season. So make sure to subscribe on YouTube if that's the route you want to take, or just keep an eye out on the podcast app, as that will be dropping sometime within the next week. So give or take. So we will talk to you guys then, barring any emergency episodes we need to drop, but I doubt it, because it doesn't
Sick of
sound like
that,
Blake
too.
Snell or Jordan Montgomery are going to pitch until 2025. So
I think I'm going to root against them no matter what. And Scott Boras. Love you guys. Don't go chasing curveballs.
we love y'all, and as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.